The next few videos are for you, the parents, and these are going to help you create some of those discipline habits that we've been talking about. And this is what we expect from you as parents to try, of course, to grow in, and also what you can expect from the teachers and the staff at Ignite and how we're going to respond to your children. So our first video, I think, is amazing and something I've struggled with a lot. But our first thing that we want to expect from the parents and expect from ourselves is to respond to our children and not just to react to them. And I heard a really good story in one of the behavior books I was reading about the difference between responding and reacting. And the author talked about how if you ever seen a firefighter and there's a burning house, you would think that, of course, we would just run like a bullet straight into the house to save whoever we needed to save. And firefighters actually trained not to do that, not to react, but to respond. So when they go in the house, they're very careful. They walk in a little bit, they assess the area, then they go through a little bit. So that's what we want to do with our kids. So a lot of times the frustration is they do something that frustrates us and we react. So there's a lot of emotion involved in that, a lot of energy that we have to expel because we're just so angry or frustrated or whatever it might be. So if that's our frustration, what is the solution? What can we do as parents to respond instead of reacting? And we're going to give you a couple ways that you can do this. The first thing to keep in mind is you want to make sure that you're separating the behavior that you don't like from your child and from the heart of who they are as a person. And again, I think I've heard it before, like it's not that you are a bad person, it's that you made a bad choice. And we want to make sure we're using those words with our child. And Karis Murray, who wrote a book that talks a lot about this and how to respond and not to react, says that you need to see the potential instead of the problems. You need to see the character rather than the corruption. So the issue is when something bad happens and you're really mad at your child for whatever they did, how do you get to that place where you're calm and peaceful to discipline rather than to be emotionally charged? And that's really hard. She used this example that I think is kind of crazy, but it's worked, and it's called the basket. So we're going to call it the basket. So whenever her child does something that she needs to discipline, she pictures and visualizes a basket. She takes the child's behavior, whatever it might be, and she visualizes that she's scooping it up and she's putting in the basket. Then she takes that basket and mentally puts it at the top of a closet. So what she's left with is her child and her child's heart. And I know that sounds crazy, but just that quick little mental game that you play with yourself helps you calm yourself down and just be present in the moment rather than to let that emotion help you react or make decisions out of that. And I know I've heard this a lot with parents that spank. Like even when you're doing something out of anger, whether it's verbal or physical to your child, that's when we can talk about abuse and things like that. You really need to back off from that emotion and be separate from it so that you can discipline in a way that's out of love and not out of anger.
Yeah, because whenever we are emotion-led, that emotion may be valid and may be true, but that's not where we want to be coming from. We really want to be spirit-led, because in any situation, it's not going to work out the end result what we want because we really can't calm ourselves. And you want to teach them this by modeling it, because this is like a lifetime skill for you. You know, because when you look at just the child, it was the behavior, it wasn't them, and you love them and you want them to understand that, because it's really two separate issues.
That's good. And you made me think too, you want to model this behavior for your child because they're going to react in the same way that you're doing. And I know I see this with my kids. If I had a rough morning and I've been like yelling or on top of them, and then you see your kids snapping at each other and yelling at each other or responding out of emotion. And it's important because they're going to be future parents and we want them to have the same kind of behavior. So again, this is our first video for parents, and what we wanted to teach you today was to respond, not to react.